is
Christmas
time? What is
Christmas
time? Is what? Christmas time.
Hello, Buffer Timers. Welcome to the closest thing to a Christmas episode that we have this year. I had never really thought about Carbon Creek as a Christmas episode. I've heard other Trekkies recently use it as an idea of one just because it's got like so many nice little down-home messages. Somebody that I had seen recently compared it to it's every Hallmark Christmas story. And I don't know about that, but we're going to talk about it today. But before we do, let's go around clockwise and introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin.
Hi, I'm Dell.
I'm Parson Brown.
Hi, I'm Shereese, the sci-fi savage.
I'm Scott from Opinions No One Cares About, wondering where my name that I actually put up today went, because that's not it.
You're not crazy. I'm crazy.
I'm sorry, I'm not that crazy.
But you know what you are also, Scott?
I'm
And
not
what
crazy.
we all
I am.
are. We are on the third anniversary of Buffer Time as of 2 days from now. 3 years ago, Scott and I did the Prodigy episode Supernova. And boy, we like
Was it Supernova?
just Supernova Part 1.
Oh my gosh, it was.
Oh, it says part 1. I thought it said Supernova Party.
Either way, they both work.
For some reason, I thought it was the one before
So
that
young.
when Down Jamie was watching
So
mine.
young and naive,
So
having no
help-
idea what
so
was
helpful.
coming.
I can't believe we've been doing this for 3 years and that we've gained so many. It's about the friends we've made along the way. A few years ago, we had done this nice. I think this is one of the best stills I've ever pulled from one of our episodes. Like we're very cheery. We had a
is that
lot
your
of
wife?
fun just talking about. Elise has done a few episodes, including this because we just talked about holiday specials. This was one of the first that Ren was in.
Oh, such a fun
Dell
movie.
was absolutely fabulous.
I had to
I'll look
be.
back. So it's been 3 years. Here's to 3 more. I mean, I didn't think this thing would last more than a year. So here's to it.
At least 2 years of covering Academy to go.
Yeah, exactly.
The big
And then-
news is that Strange New Worlds is in theory wrapped with all of its filming for the next 2 seasons. So we've got 2 more years worth of
35.
episodes. So that's not nothing. Well, 1.5.
Or is
anyway.
it? Dun dun dun.
And we're
I
pretty
mean, we could
good
always
at
get
like
spin
filling
off.
up the empty space.
Yeah, there's still a lot of Trek to talk about, and gonna turn it over to Dell because this is his baby. And what are we talking about today?
Oh Lord, it's Ma Baby. All right, so we're going to be talking about the episode Carbon Creek, and I chose this episode for a couple of reasons. I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. Some of my favorite Trek episodes are either like the bottle episodes or the episodes where Trek doesn't take itself so seriously. I usually use the example of Data's Day. It gives us a chance to really invest in all the characters, and they're not just, or I'm Ortegas, I fly the ship. They have a deeper, bigger, more emotional investment as a 3-dimensional character. And I think, even though this is just a story, I think this is really when we get to learn who T'Pol is. I also chose this because I think Enterprise gets overlooked by a lot of Trek fans because they can't get past the theme song. But on Paramount, you can skip it.
Never skip.
Wow,
Well, I
that
think-
was a theme song. I skipped it.
Yeah.
I
Short story, but when I go under anesthesia, I always get one song that gets cycled in my head over and over again. Like once it was the song from school, I think it was from Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2 hours of that. Now I went in for a surgery not too long ago, and it's been a long road. And I was like, can't wait for the surgery to be over because I know exactly what's happening. Um, anyway, but I really do like Enterprise. Maybe again, I like it like I like Deep Space Nine because I watched it as a binge watch rather than trying to remember what time it's on television because I was never very good at that. Um, but I like this episode. It humanizes Tabal, and in a way, it gives us a really interesting, different kind of first contact. In that we see a lot of episodes where the Starfleet officers disguise themselves to go intermingle with a foreign race and try to learn about it from the inside out. But this gives us the dual view of, they come home and they take off their disguises and talk like Vulcans while they're having while the experience is still happening. When one of them is watching TV, one of them is reading the newspaper. It's very integrated and it's not as sanitized where all of the discussion happens over here and all of the interaction happens over here. Even just a little bit in the very beginning when they're talking about needing to get food and he's like, it's a simple game of geometry. That's how much I know math. And a Vulcan child could do this, and she's still like, I don't know. So I kind of wanted to start with the opening book, like the bookends to the episode. Why do you think T'Pol tells this story at this point in her relationship with Trip and with Archer? Don't say because she's drunk.
I was going to say because they brought it up. I mean, Archer happened to look into her file for reasons. It's like, why'd you go to this little town in Pennsylvania?
I think even if it is entirely true 100%, there's nothing going on here. I think she did know it would specifically get under Trip's skin to hear this story. So I think part of it was needling him a little bit, but at the same time doing the Vulcan way around it. But like, well, I'm just telling you the truth. There's no ulterior motives here, even though there's definitely ulterior motives.
I think also, at least for me, it's the first time T'Pol really shows a little bit vulnerability and also a little bit of interest in creating a more intimate relationship with the two of them. That now that she has enough trust that she can kind of let down the steel Vulcan barrier and actually relate a story about something that she feels very personal about, since it's about her great-great-grandmother. I think it's just 2 grades. And it also has that kind of homey feel, which is why I think some people think of this as a Christmas episode, is that it's a way to relate to humanity on its own level. This is not really a story told from a Vulcan perspective, even though it's being told by a Vulcan, by a story about Vulcans. Is that the entire episode, even from the very beginning when T'Pol kind of starts the story, it really is a moment of humanizing her in a way that we can connect with, us as the watchers. What do you think about the level of detail or not detail that she goes into as she tells the story? What do you think this says about the difference between truth and history?
I mean, there's no way that even if she knew the story of her great-great-grandmother, which is clearly true despite her deception otherwise, there's no way that she knew every little detail that she said. I think it definitely shows that Vulcans do have a creative mind, even though all you see them is very clinical most of the time.
Very true.
Yeah, this was my first episode of Enterprise watching as an adult. because I only saw a few episodes of season 1 back when it came out, and then I was done with it. So I don't have any like bigger context of the characters, their relationships, any of that. However, in watching this episode in isolation, I do think it's interesting, to Dustin's point, that there was a lot of interpersonal relationship stuff that probably would not get passed down through conversation. Hey, Mr. Captain, would probably not be passed down, even if stories are passed down in the Vulcan culture the same way they are in Earth cultures, where people like pass stories down for morals and lessons and things like that. Even if that story was passed down in her family, probably a lot of the little things of like the little looks or the little, all of those things aren't passed down. It's more like, there was this time we were stranded on this planet. It was crazy. We thought we were going to die, but we didn't die. And we came back, but we also left some guy, but don't tell anybody. I feel like there would be very not as many details in that story, even as it's passed down. And also as a Vulcan, if there's a moral of the story, it'd probably be even less details, right? It'd be super parsed to like the only things you need to know to apply to whatever we're talking about in this moment and never again. So I would say also that there probably has to be a lot of embellishments to make the story more full and complete. And it's great. It's great. It kind of makes me think of that movie Clue, where I almost want to hear like some other version that could have happened. And then you're just like, and you'll never know which one was true. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like that.
The next time we review a movie that is not Star Trek here, it's going to be Clue. There's like, I know like Scott and I, for us, it's like 2 of our favorite movies ever.
I've done Clue like people do Rocky Horror Picture Show, where we all had a shadow cast, and instead of writing V's on people's foreheads, we put question marks. It was awesome.
Nice.
My son was in the musical junior.
Oh,
that's cool. That's really cool.
One of the reasons that this episode really rings personal to me is that going to be a woo-woo asshole for a moment. I consider myself a sacred storyteller. And although most of the stories I tell are from my own life, you got to keep the listener's interest. And so sometimes I throw in details that I know are embellishments, that I know are just to make the story a little more spicy, or I'll exaggerate something in order for it to carry more weight than it did in real life. But that's part of mythic making, is the idea of making sure that the story has both warmth and truth at the same time. And so that's why I was thinking about the difference between truth and history, is because history is, this happened at this date, at this time, and this is how it happened. Again, like Shereese was saying, that's what we would assume a Vulcan would do. Whereas I think in this case, we're looking at truth, even if it is futzed in the details, but it's an emotional truth. It is like, we are capable of first contact that isn't so clinical and isn't so cut and dry. And that we did this and we survived and we got back to Vulcan and everything was okay again. And it almost made me sad the first time I watched it, because I was thinking, we always think of the first contact being the Vulcan coming out in the big robes, and there's, drunk man going like, I got a rocket ship too. Come on, that's what he sounded like. And so I liked the idea. Again, we've seen examples of this in other Star Trek episodes, where it's focused on the one story, and that we don't have like some major emergency happening in the background. We don't have someone barging in the middle of the story being like, all right, but now there are dogs attacking from space. And like, we can actually sit and let this episode kind of do what it needs to do.
I like that the future technology the Vulcans brought to the table were leather jackets and Velcro pouches. That just felt appropriate.
Like, everything else is decimated. Although I do have a question. Did someone like sneak a universal translator on them? Were these Vulcans schooled in English already?
When the Ferengi went back in time, it was in their inner ear. So maybe the Vulcans had a similar technology long before the Federation created such a device.
Yeah, it was just like one of those things that like hit me halfway through, where I was just like, wait a minute, Vulcan is a whole different language.
The problem with that is in TOS, they show you a universal translator, and it's like a stick. It's like, I don't know, it's like a baton in like a race, the size of that. So I don't think the Vulcans at this time, 100 years before, would have this if like the Federation only had that. But then you get like, they retcon stuff all the time, so I don't know. I mean, just,
unless they were
someday,
specifically doing it. Like,
someday we need to do a stream where all we do is talk about the universal translator. It's going to take some digging, because it's one of the most misportrayed things in the Star Trek universe. Like, over the course of it, it's portrayed so many ways, it's kind of hard to keep track. But
it was kind of why I felt
it's weird in this
I
one.
fell in love with Enterprise was watching Hoshi try to create this thing using, her own language.
Good call, Mr. Captain. Yeah, nice.
I'm going to call it Volcro from now on. I actually told Dustin when I was working on this episode, I said, more than once I've tried to convince people who are not very Trek savvy that the Vulcans invented Velcro.
Can't disprove it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even in our real timeline, it was like, it had already been patented more than a decade before.
So so we get to see three very different approaches to first contact almost right away. We get to see the one Mestral, who wants to go out there immediately and talk with the animals, walk with the animals, do the whole thing. And you've got, I know these characters' names. I do. Tamir. You have Tamir, who's kind of half and half. She can kind of recognize that interacting with these humans is kind of a necessity, but she also appreciates being able to just be in the little Vulcan cave when she can. And then there's Mo, who still has a job fixing toilets, which I can understand why that would give you a very negative view of humanity if all you do is clean shit. But he has a very sort of insular, like, yeah, these are meat sacks, let's go home to the real people. What do you think your choice of road would be if you found yourself in the middle of an alien race and you were stuck there? Maybe it's not one of these three like archetypes, maybe it's something else, but I'm really curious. What do you think it would be like for you to try to figure out how to meet your needs with a wholly different society?
I don't have an answer to that question yet, but as you were talking, Del, I was thinking it's like having a cat, a dog, and a bird. Like, these are the pets we've inherited. And one is like, I want to be where the people are. And the other's like, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't think about me unless I need to eat. And the other one's like, I just want to go home. Why am I even here? I don't want to be here. I think that's really funny. Yeah, I don't have an answer to this question. I'd probably be, in my real life, I'm more of the bird, so probably that. Like, I'd probably be in denial, I think, for a while. But man, they were there for like a year, right? Or something like that. Yeah, I'd be in denial for a while, but at some point I'd be like, well, I guess we live here now. I guess we're humans. I guess we just gotta like make this work somehow. Especially since Vulcans live for like hundreds of years. I think I'd be very depressed, but I also think I would start making plans for how am I going to do this if this is going to be a thing for the rest of my life.
I would hide, steal, and pray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually have a better answer for this if like you were talking about getting trapped like back in time. Like, just find somewhere to hole up and try and stay out of history's way. But if you're talking about being on an entire other planet,
but it's another planet where you fit in as long as you wear a hat. So it's not like you're on Klingon.
Or just take your hair and go like that, like a monkey.
Yeah, or you just wear your hair over your ears and never go into the wind. So it's an alien planet where you absolutely fit in, like, very easily. So keep that in mind. You're not on like Bajor.
No, well, Bajor, you just have to like rub your nose a little bit and then you're fine.
Like, keep a Band-Aid there.
Yeah, exactly.
But both in the 50s and now, like, knowing what and they had studied the planet and what was going on before they went down to at least some degree. Like I would know that if I'm captured, I am going to be tortured by some government on this planet. So yeah, I'm gonna just hide. I am going
For like
to
150
avoid
years, you will be tortured.
whatever it
I
takes.
think I would be convinced that I would be killed by a nuclear explosion because it's hard to not judge humanity based on that alone. Like, even with Sputnik happening and the other things that happened within the time period that it's set in, I really think nuclear annihilation would be the thing. Because it's like, I don't know these people. I don't know what would encourage them to even want to create such a thing, much less use it. And I have no control and no say in that matter. Again, because I grew up during the Cold War, like we did drills where we went into the schools, shelters, and such. And I did grow up with a pretty healthy fear of nuclear disaster. And if I saw that on my television and I was not on Earth at the time, I would be very, very afraid of that. But I think I would end up being like Chekhov and asking people where their nuclear vessels are, so I could at least learn more about that. And then everyone would know I don't belong there.
What about you, Josh?
Well, I guess I was thinking of a couple things there because obviously the whole point of having the three different characters, although we didn't get to see a ton of Mo, I would have liked to see more of him out and about, was to show the different aspects.
But maybe that was the point of Mo.
Well, yeah. But I guess it was to showcase the different aspects, like the person that's more, looking at the media and judging us by the media, as opposed to the person who's actually going out and taking the time to get to know individual people in the society. But I do want to know, because it might lend some more background to how often they've encountered other species out there in the galaxy that have gone through a similar phase. Because they said ancient Vulcans, they were warring. Whether or not they did nuclear stuff, I don't know. But is this kind of a roadblock civilizations go through quite frequently? And yes, sometimes they come out of it, sometimes they don't. Or is this singularly a human thing where we're the only ones who decided to screw around with nuking each other?
No, because the Vulcans themselves knew that was what had happened just like 1,000 or 1,500 years before, or whatever it is. The time of Serac and all that.
Yeah.
Where they
I guess I'm wondering, like, how frequently throughout other worlds, like, do most cultures have to go through that to get to the point of being
right, like Bronze Age, Industrial Age, nuclear warfare
I was
age?
Say, certainly in the realm of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, where we encounter these worlds where, like, we meet the Greek gods and they all have to go through their Roman phase and their Nazi phase, and bombs. So yeah, we've seen this before.
Wasn't that the in the pilot of Strange New Worlds? In the pilot of Strange New Worlds, that planet was like at war, and then it was like, you guys can go to war or join the Federation. So I think it's definitely like assumed in the Trek universe that all planets must go through near annihilation phase in order to reach enlightenment or something.
So I'm gonna bet that, if for no other reason, because we are a bunch of geeks, we understand what it feels like to be on the outside of what most people consider normal society. For me, I'm queer, I'm disabled, and I have a filthy mouth, and it's really hard for me to turn it off. And so all of those things makes me feel like an outsider. Granted, the non-binary queer stuff, mostly being in a wheelchair, kind of mostly, but also just like I play an online social deduction game, and I play it a lot. And it's hard for me sometimes not to talk about it. My poor sister, who is currently helping me with some stuff going on, like, she's heard so many clock tower stories, and she's just like, and I'm like, you should watch sometime. And she's like, nope. But it does make me feel, when I don't have people who I can communicate with about the things that excite me or the things that I'm into, or even just the things that make me different from everybody else, like, it can be really frustrating. So, what do you feel this says about being the outsider?
Well, it's kind of interesting because back to the point I made to Scott about you're on an alien planet, but you look almost exactly like the aliens, as long as you wear a bandana. They're not as othered as you would think. They are treated more equally than I would have been treated in that same exact situation. And I am a human, right? So it's kind of a weird question. While they were technically other, no one knew that. So they were treated as locals. And what's her face? I was going to say to Paul, but whatever her great grandmother's name was.
Tamir.
Yes, Tamir. She said, if they knew we weren't human, they wouldn't be so hospitable. Then they would be othered. Then they would be extra othered, right? Then they would be cut up into little pieces and put under a microscope and put in a facility and never see the light of day. And, it'd be a whole different story. So I feel like the question for this episode is not so much, what does this mean about being othered? The question for this episode is more like, what does masking and fitting in mean? Like, if anything, it's the exact opposite. It's like, what does passing do for one? And apparently it does everything. You get friends, girlfriend, get to go watch the baseball game, you get a job. Like, if you fit in enough, like, there is no other. Just pull your hat down a little bit, you're good.
But I'm wondering if there was a reverse other thing going on and the Vulcans reacted the way they did based on how they fit into Vulcan society. So maybe they're more apt to try and assimilate into human culture, or at least, where's this, Pennsylvania or wherever we were? They're more apt to try to fit in the less they fit into the Vulcan society they came from. So if you're already feeling like I'm not up to the Vulcan standard, now you've got this opportunity, you might be more willing to, well, we're not going to get rescued. I'll just be myself here because I already feel more of a kinship here than I ever did at home, as opposed to the rigid, like, I fit in, I know the rules back home, so I need to get back there.
That does kind of track, because there's this one point, I think, when they'd been there for a while and Tamir's like, I'm in charge of this mission, and Mistral's like, what mission? We're not on a mission anymore. We have crashed. We don't think we're going anywhere. We need to fit in or adapt. And I mean, that's what I'm doing. I got a girl.
Because it very much reminded me of when 7 of 9 had that little, they were disconnected from the collective and they're all like, we need to be individuals. And she's like, nope.
I'm assimilating all 3 of y'all bees. Exactly. We will be one.
I also find, like, for me, this is going to sound weird, but it's the only way I can think to say it, is like, talking to humans is hard for me. I am a gregarious and social person, but I'm not very good at, like, small talk. It just doesn't interest me. I don't care what the weather is. Like, if I really want to, I'll ask my phone. And there's a lot about my life that I can't really explain. I mean, this is why I'm kind of the black sheep of my family. It's not because they don't like me. It's because I can't explain who I am and what I do. Like, it's just a matter of, I mean, most of you know this already. I was a sex educator for 20 years on sexuality and kink and ritual. And you can't really say that when your sweet old aunt asks you what you do for a living. And it does create a jargon that I have to remember to turn off when I'm around other humans. And it leads to some funny situations. Like, I brought someone to a family barbecue who refused to sit on furniture the whole time. And I finally had to, and my family, being very kind, kept offering them chairs. And then I finally leaned over to my mom, who always found this kind of thing really funny. I said, no, it's that she's not allowed to sit on furniture. And my mom looks at me and she goes, oh. Because we were in a power dynamic, and one of the rules was you don't get furniture. And even though I forgot it was still in play at the time, as soon as she sat on the floor, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. but it's just the idea that I have friends I could hang out with, and she would do that, and no one would blink an eye. They'd be like, "Oh, it must be some sort of weird, power dynamic thing." But doing it in front of my parents or my grandparents is a whole different story. And so for me, also, it's about trying to normalize how weird I am, if that makes any sense. And I think Mistral goes through some of that as well. He's the one that's like, I want to learn all about being a human. I want to make kiss girls and go to baseball games. I think he's really trying to find that lingua franca, that so that he doesn't just communicate with them, but he understands them. Whereas I think Mo kind of just shuns them, and I think Tamir puts up with them until the very end.
She's just there purely for the science. I have no idea what Mo is. What is his thing in that? Is he like just in the Vulcan service and like, oh, just got signed to this? Because the other two, like, I can see Tamir like being a genuine, she might be a bit overbearing, but she's basically just Vulcan.
Yeah.
But like she actually seems to like kind of get it in the culture in the end, where I don't think Mo, if he had lived there for a million years, would understand or care about human society.
Well, if we look at it with a nonlinear lens, we can see how the fake Vulcans in Strange New Worlds treated Spock once they became fake Vulcans.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think that or not I think, I have no idea, but perhaps it seems like Mistral was more like the ecologist or something, more the person who really studies behavior, and maybe Tamir was more of like an overseer supervisor, and maybe Mo was just like the Excel sheet coordinator or something. Maybe he was just the data cruncher. That was his role in the mission, and now he's got to like interact with the creatures, and he did not sign up for that. He never was interested in that. That was never going to be his thing. He was always there to just like take the data and collate it and put it into a report or something. Maybe that's why he was very uninterested in this world that he was thrown into, even after a whole year.
He's an engineer, not an anthropologist.
It reminds me from the guy from the TNG episode Lower Decks, when he's like, I'm just here because I need to have certain hours on a spaceship before I can lock myself in a closet and do math all day. And that
the Good Shepherd, the Voyager.
Yeah, on the Voyager.
Oh, that's Voyager.
Voyager's version of the Lower Decks theme, though. Yeah.
Why do you think this works as a Star Trek episode? Not just because there are Vulcans and humans involved. Where does the Star Trek of it all come from?
Yeah, it is one of the least Trekky Trek episodes. I mean, we got Vulcans, we've got sci-fi, and just like in that they're stuck there. ET phone home. Also the Coneheads. It's so many old tropes thrown into one thing that 9 times out of 10, if it wasn't executed on the level that this episode was, this would fall apart so hard if most productions tried to do it, because it's just a series of tropes that kind of works really well together if you do it right.
It reminds me of the Bell Riots episodes of DS9, but because those were also like, go back in time, we're trapped, what are we going to do? But that was actually more like, this was a historical period, and here's what we did in that historical period. It had some connection to future, where this was really like disconnected from anything. It was really just like, it was almost like an episode, those just like slice of life episodes we would get in TNG, where they're just like playing poker today, or just like whatever. So yeah, it's not very Trekky at all, except for the idea of like, in the end, Tamir's heart grows 3 sizes bigger. Well, okay, sort of. That's like, it has a moral of the story, and I would argue that most Trek episodes have some kind of moral of the story, but it's not very, other than them being Vulcans, this could have been an episode of anything. And I think what makes it a story, what makes it a story at all, is the transformation, and the transformation that we really see is Tamir's more than Mistral's. Like, he's, the foil or whatever. And it's just that image of like, I don't want to be here. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to contaminate the culture. And then realizing like these people are people and their dreams and goals matter. And I should care about that, even if it's just one person, is what makes the episode like emotionally meaningful. I think if they didn't have that tie in with the kid who's like, oh, gee whiz, I'm not going to get to go to college. Like if they didn't have that kid going through, I don't think this episode would have a really strong anything to hold on to at the end. Exactly. If it wasn't for that kid, like if in the end it was just like Mistral just being like, I love humans and I want to stay, it would kind of be like, okay, but we needed some character to transform to caring about something or someone. And I think that's what makes the episode emotionally satisfying. But I don't know if I would call this like extremely Trekky, which was kind of at the beginning of this, Del. That's what you said why you picked it, right? It's because it's like an untrekky Trek. So.
Yeah, well, it's not that it's untrekky, but that it breathes and moves differently. I think one of the key moments for me that really feels like Trek is the teenage boy. You know, that he's trying to understand these newcomers in a way that's open and accepting, but also just enough skeptical that they can't like rob him. You know, it's like he sees Tamir meditating and doesn't say, are you meditating or what you're doing? He asks, well, are you doing it for spiritual reasons? Are you doing it to calm yourself? Like he's already in there with the, I know what it is that you're doing, but I don't understand why. And I think we've seen a lot of episodes where in Star Trek where they meet one representative of a race, I'm thinking in Enterprise with the Andorians, and that Andorian becomes sort of the sum total of all Andorian knowledge in the Federation's playbook at that point. And I think in a lot of ways, because they wanted to center the episode about the boy who understands them all in different ways, that he is that face, the face of, I represent humanity to you. And I think that's why we get a lot of what the endings we get. I mean, because except for Mo, the other two interact with him throughout the story in different ways. And I think that helps him be an ambassador, a diplomat to 1950s Pennsylvania.
I think what makes this really a Trek episode, you know, it starts with the basic theme of Trek, you know, to seek out new life and new civilizations, explore strange new worlds. Except you get it reversed because our world is the one that is strange and new, and we have an alien race exploring us and learning to acclimate. And honestly, learning far more than I think we ever do exploring other worlds, because they always seem to have like one defining characteristic, which is, you know, just to save on writing. But the way they explore that is, I think, what makes it as Trek-y as it is. If it's not like fully a Trek episode, it's at least Trek-ish.
And I appreciated the little, I don't know if misunderstandings is the right word, the attempt to understand something, but they didn't get the nuance behind it. I guess I'm specifically thinking earlier on when they're listening to the game and they're like, oh, well, this must be some brutal ritual combat. It's like, or it's entertainment. It's like, I'm sure we do the same stuff all the time, looking at things we find, digging up the past. It's like, oh, this must mean the one thing. It's like, or maybe it's something completely different. It's just your perspective and what you're coming to it with and your own preconceived notions about, you know, thinking these people are so much more primitive because they came before you, or they're not as advanced as you, so you're not giving them the benefit of, you know, real people status, I suppose.
Yeah, I did happen to see something like that. What was it? There's these anthropologists, I forget which one. They were looking at this society that had these like incredibly sharp blades. I think they were made of glass, and for some reason they were all stored in the upper level of the house. And they're wondering, is this like some weird ritual thing? And there's this woman who came in who was a mother with kids, and she was like, no, they put them up there so the kids can't get them. Like, it's just stuff as simple as that.
Interesting.
I try.
So sorry, my brain just totally took a break. So I'm going to ask the funny question. Did anyone else, when they were watching the episode, picked up the meta loop of the fact that the Vulcans were watching I Love Lucy, since Lucy Arnaz is the person who helped bring Star Trek to life? Did anyone else catch on that little time loop?
This time, I don't think I did originally, but
I had a question. I'll just add on to yours because
Right.
my question basically asked that and then some. What kind of mind fuck is it for you that both the godmother of Star Trek in Lucille Ball, which got Trek rolling, and Trip mentions the Twilight Zone, which is the bigger, like, weird, because almost every cast member from TOS, like main cast member, played on the Twilight Zone. So you stop just shy of Star Trek becoming canon in Star Trek because of this episode.
I mean,
A lot of them were also in Perry Mason, so I guess if they had mentioned that, it would have been the trifecta.
They didn't quite go the quantum leap route and go like, and the little boy they were talking to the whole time, his name was Gene R.
My name's Jean, and I'm just trying to go to college. Someday, I want to write TV pictures.
I figure the way it's going now, in about 10 years, Nostal's going to sit down and start watching this new sci-fi show, and it's just going to blow his friggin' mind.
Oh man, he's going to be so mad about
How do
Spock.
they know about Vulcans?
Be like, that's not right.
They did have Trek and Trek in the holodeck episode of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Right? The like non-name brand Star Trek. So they kind of did do they looped it in. And then they had, Uhura being like, this is why fans love space adventures on television, because of their morals and societal blah blah blah, and that's why we love it. So I think they got it in there eventually. It just took them like another 20 years.
Okay, riddle me this, Batman. If Tamir is the middle between let's become a human right now and run away and, eat popcorn and play baseball, and Mo, who wants to stay at home and has to deal with human shit all the time,
literally,
what do you think encouraged her to go sell the Velcro?
I don't think it was the one conversation they had where he was like, I like reading and learning. I want to be a scientist when I grow up. And she was like, wow, just like me. You're more than a savage. It's worth it for you to have your dreams. That's my hypothesis.
Also, this paper I have means nothing to me, so.
The simple answer is just she got it. Yeah, like Shereese said earlier, her heart grew 3 sizes that day, or 4, however many sizes a Vulcan heart grows.
Yeah, he mentioned having to work in the
Vulcan Grinch. I'll be in my corner for a moment.
Say that again, Scott.
Yeah, it was just because he was like, yeah, if I don't do this, I'm going to end up having to work in the mines. And his mother was like, oh, but he's so smart. It isn't fair.
The Vulcans do yearn for the mines.
He grew a heartstring and it got tugged.
But he could blow up in those mines, and then he'll never write his famous picture.
Oh, man. No wagon train.
And then he can never be that kid from October Sky.
Yeah, thank God for that one conversation, because otherwise that kid would be in the mines until it collapsed on him. So, and also, yay, now the whole planet has Velcro. Everyone wins. Literally everyone. I thought she was going to say he invented it, and then but that's not what she did. That's what I thought. That's why I was like, oh my gosh.
This kid, he's really good. He made this thing. Just don't talk to him about it. He's too busy writing his shows.
That's the wildest patent experience I've ever seen. This will change the world. Just give me a couple $100 bills and rolls, please. Sure. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Thanks. Nice doing business with you.
Yeah, and then you could automatically search for whether this had already been patented, which is kind of a big thing, which would have taken like weeks, if not months, back then.
And paid cash for it on the spot rather than wrote a check or
There's not even a receipt for it. So I mean, if it wasn't patentable, he didn't lose that much.
Well, then the ghost of Edison showed up, and he's like, "Actually, that's mine."
I don't get the joke, Mr. Captain.
Well, let's talk about my electric hammer. Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Madeline
Flew over
Kahn?
my head.
Is that who we're talking about?
Or Madeline, like the
Oh,
the
that's-
children's book. or-
Madeline, like the cartoon.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Now you have to
Let us-
explain
let
it,
us
which will
know.
make it less funny, but
Please.
we'll get it at least.
The one with the whales. Who the hell's
Was
Madeline,
Madeline
and the one
in
with
Star
the whales?
Trek 4?
What?
Madeline?
Oh, okay. I understand. Now I get. What
Oh,
you're
the
saying.
transparent aluminum guy had a daughter.
Now Madeline.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I'm there.
Okay. Okay. I understand.
Me
now.
too. And I've seen that movie 1,000 times.
And I have not seen that movie.
Well, thanks for watching Enterprise today, because I know that's not like your thing.
Yeah, honestly, T'Pol and Trip were a little annoying, but we only saw a few minutes of them. But it did make me nervous for watching the show because, like, that's the plan after I finish TOS is to watch.
Yeah,
Enterprise. I was like,
eventually, if you got to go down that long road.
I wanted to listen to the theme song because I know everybody talks about it. So I was like, all right, let me listen to it. Whoo! I got into the first line and I was like, no.
If you
skip,
just mute
no.
it, like the graphics are actually some of the best,
So,
like graphical.
when I go back to
Trek,
watch it,
but
Del,
the music is terrible. No,
when I go to watch it, Del, I will watch the entire song on the pilot.
Okay, but here's the thing.
and then
Well,
again
maybe
in
the
season
pilot-
3 because they
Let me
changed
know
it.
what I was going to say.
Ish.
So when I watch the show, there's the first version of the theme, and it's pretty bad. But then at season 3, I call it the jingle jangle version of the theme because someone put
It
in
goes
like
acoustic.
some rhythmic guitar in the background, but it's rhythmic acoustic. So it's really strange, and maybe they got someone on tambourines. I'm not certain.
I
But
always
like they
feel
try
like
to
there
spice
was.
it up, but it almost sounds worse.
That's also when they add the
I-
name Star Trek, right? When
Yeah.
they change it.
Yes.
I can't remember if they added it in 2 or 3. Either way, it always felt like there was some kind of pissing match between Berman and some other producer from the production team, where it was like, "Well, you have to change the name of this. You can pick anything, or you have to change the music behind this. You can pick anything you want." And he's like, "Okay." And then just to be an asshole, it feels like he just picked a new version of the same song that was even worse. Anyway,
I hired someone to play the triangle.
And there was no skip back in the day. So anyways, yeah, watching this episode, at least at the beginning, it made me really nervous about going through Enterprise because I was like, wow, I've spent 3 minutes with these characters and I'm irritated by them. They seem really annoying. But I was like, maybe it's different when there's like other characters and I don't know, space battles, when they're not just sitting around having wine. Maybe it's a totally different, the context, the dynamics. But I was nervous because I was like, if it's like this, like if they irritate me, how am I ever going to get to season 4?
See,
I don't know.
The reason I like Enterprise is because I'm a fan of bottle episodes. And Enterprise in itself allows you to actually invest time and energy in getting to know the characters and their reasons for being in space and the way that they interact with each other and what they learn from each other. I mean, Trip comes on as this like, yippity doodah, I can make a machine go, but I'm from Florida. And at the end, he appreciates Hoshi for her intellect and appreciates T'Pol for her logic and appreciates, like, he really at the first, he's like, y'all are, super nerds and I'm the guy who can just fix the engine. And in the end, he kind of understands the role that each of them play. I love that Malcolm has this history of his family going into the Royal Navy. And this was his escape from having to join the Royal Navy. And it turned out to be basically a submarine in space. And the fact that he's always willing to sacrifice his life, even when he doesn't have to. And so it's like that, where I feel like you get a little bit more of a bite into who these characters are and what their relationships are like and how that forms a crew. And I think that's really good for a series that's supposed to be the origins of, is the idea that we can also look at these characters and say, well, I can see where that archetype could bring forth a Kirk or bring forth a Picard. I mean, Archer is a little bit more of a Kirk figure, but he also knows when to stand up and just give a good lecture and know that that's enough. And also, well, go ahead.
And half of the small Starfleet at this time has banged the waitress from the 409 Club.
Yes.
That's important. You'll come to find that out.
I mean,
Really
like,
Never
better
so
if they have to
subtly.
make a lumberjacking.
where else are you going to find a story where you go to Riza for the first time and fall in love or in lust with two beautiful waitresses who lure you down into the luminescent garden, which is actually just a basement, and then it turns out that they're actually two dudes who are just there to rob you.
And then you
And
wake up without
oh my
kidneys.
God.
Is that what
Yeah.
happens at the end of the story? I think I've heard this one.
Night at the Rizaberry.
The trip to Riza where almost nobody has any fun.
I also like
Just Hoshi.
exploring the Trek universe with the eyes of someone who's never seen it before. Like even in the original series, I don't know, I just got a weird message on my computer. Even in the original series, they have some knowledge of like who the Klingons are and who the Vulcans are and that sort of thing. Where in this, like the first episode, not that I'm spoiling anything, is when humanity meets its first Klingon and how they react to that.
Klingot.
Oh, that's the Rise episode after they've met the
2
ladies.
days and 2 minutes.
I will say their necklines are a lot higher than Picard's was.
That's true.
They're much more covered.
Especially the shoe underwear.
Yeah, the short rompers is still more covered than Picard was.
But then there's this is how they deserve to have their clothes stolen going out like this, to be honest.
What is love?
I mean, I don't
It's totally Night at the Roxbury.
Disbelieve you.
Totally.
I don't disbelieve you, Dal. I'm sure it's great. I was just saying it made me nervous. That's all I was saying. In watching it, I was like, oh gosh.
I mean,
what am
half
I
of
gonna
Enterprise
experience?
is
No.
just season 1 and 2 of TNG, but then there's like way better stuff. Just like TNG,
Yeah.
you got to slog through some stuff to get to some better stuff.
The pilot's
And
a pretty
I'm
good
not a
introduction.
big fan of like the first season of Discovery when it's all about just who are we shooting this week and why did someone shoot someone and not the other person, and I'm like, just tell me who these people are so I care. Like, tell me who these villains are so I care. Otherwise, it's like, oh, she mutinied. I don't care because I didn't know who the captain was and if they were any good at what they were doing. And so this is the kind of Star Trek I like because now I'm invested. When, half of Trip's face gets burned, I'm invested. Like I feel that in the gut. And I know you're all making fun of me. That's all right. But
I'm remembering
not.
when we talked about that Strange New World
I
episode
love
and how you were so horrified by some of the gore going on in that first episode, and now you're talking about a guy getting his face burned off. I'm just saying.
Well, no, it was only half, and it was just scars.
That's what took me aback for a moment. That's what the face was about.
That's fair.
Like, what? But okay.
But yeah, no, and I feel like that's something that's missing in modern Trek. I am a fan of modern Trek. Let me be very clear, front and personal. Even the Whisper Trek, even the Trek I can't see because it's lit too dark, still a fan. But I think what it's missing is the humanity of it all. The things that I can connect with. I think like Strange New World is getting there. Like I am invested in who Pike is and his like main metaphysical sort of challenge. But like it took me a while, even when I was a teenager watching TNG with my dad, it took me a while to really get invested because I needed to know who these characters were before I really cared what they were doing or what was happening. And maybe that's because that's the way I interact with the story, and why I think this story worked well for me is because it was about the people. It wasn't like, let's tell you a story about a mining town in Pennsylvania. It was about, let's tell you about the people who made up that town. And I wonder now, when we're talking about truth and history, do you think the people of Carbon Creek tell the story of the 3 weirdos that came into town one day?
For a couple of years after that, or maybe till the mine closes like 10 years later.
The mine rescue is probably a legend.
That's a good point.
But that's probably the only thing. They didn't do anything of note to be talked down to other than that moment, which was huge, especially in a mining town. You miraculously saved 12 people from dying. Like they're gonna tell their kids that story. But I don't think it's gonna be anything connected to oh, these 3 people came to town and they were, I don't think it'll be like that. It'll be like one of the guys who worked at the mines.
they
Go save the other guys.
And Mistral probably helped keep a lid on it.
As far as they're concerned, they're just like more transients that came through town, did some jobs for a while, and then they were gone. I mean, that's how, like, in general, mining towns build up. You know, people, it's a boom and bust. You go there when the jobs are there, and then 10, 15 years down the road, the town's gone.
How would you compare this to other Star Trek episodes that visit Earth in a very defined time period? Like, and let's say visit Earth includes like going to a planet where there's Chicago gangsters, or takes place, you know, during Christmas time at the Salvation Army, or, you know, or is on the holodeck and it's about being cowboys. Like, how do you think this compares to other Star Trek episodes that have to do with being on Earth in a very specific period of time?
I think it's just, I mean, Trek repackages their stuff all the time. This is a repackage of 1159. Usually, repackaging is worse. This episode is 1,000 times better than 1159 for me. I do not like 1159, even though it gives Trek a New Year's episode, which I had hoped to do this year, but we'll put that off.
I think it's kind of like apples and oranges because they go back in time a lot. I mean, that is a Star Trek trope, is going back in time to the present when the episode's being filmed. That's a thing. And then going back in time to like important moments in history is a thing. Kind of Forrest Gumping it and being like, really, we invented the pyramids or whatever. Right. So I think, I think it's just apples and oranges. I think every time they do it, it's for a different reason. So it's really hard to compare them in their own. I mean, I guess I could do it like a, you know, if I did a 10 times Starfleet went back in time thing, I suppose I could come up with some kind of ranking based on something. But I think they're all different and they're all doing different things. Like when Voyager went back in time, one of the times, and they went back to the present, it was like high action and it was corporate espionage and all of this. And in the end, they got the mobile emitter for the Doctor, which actually came in handy for all of the rest of the show. But then like when, I don't know, I can think of so many episodes where it's just like they went back in time and people were like, oh my gosh, there's aliens, and they went back and then it was fine. So I don't know. It's really hard to compare this unless I had some criteria upon which these different back in time episodes were being compared. I mean, they did it in Picard. They did it like, it's a thing. It's a thing Star Trek does.
I would probably put that, as far as time travel episodes go, I think I find myself oddly comparing it to a lot of two-parters. It's better than Time Zero, roughly comparable to Future's End, but not as good as Past Tense or City on the Edge of Forever.
What about Carpenter Street?
Freaking love Carpenter Street.
It's for me. These two are really close. Carpenter Street is such a good episode of Enterprise, and that's actual time because this isn't even time travel. This is just telling a story from back when. But yeah, it is like it's similar into what Trek usually does. I mean, they find clothing as soon as they get into town for period, which is the thing that happens in almost every Trek time travel.
But
there is always some convenient laundry.
You can't walk around with leather jackets. Everyone would know they were aliens.
Fair.
Or flannel, you totally fit in.
What I like about this one in particular is there is no cataclysmic event. Mm-hmm. There is no, we have to do this because we have to stop Hitler from being born or whatever. That it is just a sample of humanity that's right in the middle. It's not like they're in the middle of a war. It's not like everyone there is starving and wearing shreds of clothing. It's not like there is going to be a class war. It's just, this is a slice of life and they get to experience it. And they all feel very differently about it. And I think that's a way that I can sort of turn around and think of people who like Star Trek. And I think there are people who want to go live in that right now. And there are some people who hate where it's going, and and some people who have no idea what's going on and don't really care to.
I just want a sick bay I can go to whenever I want. That's
as long as it's Flox's. I want someone to rip off the head of a bat and make me suck on it so my knees don't hurt.
Here, eat this.
Yeah,
you could probably do that on your own if you really wanted to. I'm up for hyposprays. That's what I would be. But there's no amount of money you could pay me to go to the 50s. Like there's no amount of anything that could there's nothing I could ever pay to go to the past. So yeah, I see that. I can see that. But I also think of like the episode where Quark et al. Went back to Area 51, right? Which I think is such a fun episode, right? And it's like they couldn't possibly blend. So yes, they were captured. Yeah. They were definitely put into the facilities, everything we're talking about here. But it in a similar way, it wasn't like it was a war. They had to set time right. It wasn't anything like that. They just got like snagged in spacey, timey-wimey rift for some reason, and they just went back through it. Everything's good, so it wasn't necessarily slice of life in the same way, but there we go. But I also feel like it was equally like non-disruptive to the timeline and to, I guess, unless they were the only inventors of Area 51, the only ones who ever crashed. But like, I feel like this, it was equally just kind of like giving us a little snapshot of what was going on, but with a much different tone, right? Just with like a funny, silly, what would it really be like if there really was an other situation going on and Odo didn't get caught.
I think it's time for 10 out of 10s. I'm going to last, so I'm going to ask Dustin to go first.
Okay. I love this one. I'm going to give it a 9. I think I had it's either just in or just outside my top 100 out of the like 900 episodes of Star Trek. I didn't look, but I know it's somewhere in there. It's such a weird Trek episode because it's not really a Trek episode. Like we've said, it could have been on anything, and they took a whole bunch of tropes and took a chance and executed it on a really high level. I love like when Shereese had said that she was going to have a chance to be with us, I was like, we're doing Enterprise, but wait. I know you don't do Enterprise, but you don't need to know anything about Enterprise. So it's one of those things that like anybody can enjoy. Even if you're not a Trek fan, you could probably enjoy the story. So it gets high marks there. I don't even know what would take off points for me in this one, other than there are just better episodes of Star Trek. But not by a lot. There's a lot worse. So yeah, 9 for me. Go ahead, John.
So there's not really anything I can point to in this episode that I'm like, oh, that was such a bad idea. Why did they do that? There's things I feel like not are missing, but just they might have been left out on purpose, because there's no real, in a story like this, you would expect there would be the typical, I don't know, somebody causing them a problem or something, like the drunk guy at the bar who's, trying to feel up not to Paul or something, or just some sort of adversarial character like that. Or even Lower Decks had the creepy guy who was always trying to catch them and thinking something was up. There's nothing like that here. There's no real antagonist at all. It's just our characters dealing with their lives and trying to fit in this place that we know. I mean, it's probably a little alien to us because none of us are from that time period, but like everything they're seeing is new to them. So it's just a really cool, fun experience. I wonder how it would have been if they had an entire guest cast and they didn't have Jolene play her great grandmother, if they had just a completely other Vulcan and it was all disconnected. I feel like it still would have worked, but it would have been interesting to see that. Not my favorite Enterprise episode, but it's definitely up there. I'll probably give it like 8.75.
Yeah, for me, this episode I agree with Dustin. Like anybody could watch this at any time, even if you don't like Star Trek, and you'll get it and it will be fine. Like there's nothing about it that's going to be like, oh, but I hate laser beams or something like that. No laser beams. You're good. It's just, it's a very relatable story. I think it's a pretty universal story. I think it could have been elevated a bit with some of the emotional depth, because it was like, Mistral wants to go to a baseball game, but Tamar doesn't want him to go. I don't know. It could have been a little more elevated with the internal conflicts. The drama could have been kicked up a notch, I think. I do think it was sweet the way they ended with and he gets to go to college and live his dreams. That was very sweet. And then also Mistral gets to live on forever and ever amongst the humans. That was nice. I didn't know I didn't know how they were going to pull that off. It was very Coneheads, which I'm a fan of Coneheads. So I think I would probably give this one, I'm going to say a 7. It's a good episode. It's a sweet episode. Emotionally, I'm not as enthralled by it. And maybe it's because I don't know as much about the characters, where maybe I'd be like, oh my gosh, it was so cool to see Not to Paul being so not to polish. So maybe there's just some disconnects for me there. But yeah, I think that's where I would put it. It's a really good episode. It's solid. It's a great one to introduce people to if they say they don't like Trek, because there's nothing to not like in this. You get cool spaceships for the little bit of spacey parts. So yeah, that's my vote.
Okay. So this episode is kind of like you previously mentioned Star Trek 4, because as far as actual Trek stuff goes, it is just as minimalist as possible. And yet it works really well. I was sitting here thinking I think even most of the episode being shot in the past, even they kind of make it look that way, as opposed to the dinner scenes with T'Pol and Archer and Tret. And I love that. I love the story. I love the idea of Mistral going native, because he really seems to have things figured out from the get-go. As soon as they're walking in town, it's oh, that must be why they do this, and that must be why they do this. I don't know how much Mo adds to anything except to be just sort of a, what I say in my summary, he just seems to hate everything, but it makes it work. And Jack gets to go to college, and we see Ann Cusack, the less appreciated of the Cusack siblings. All in all, I'm gonna say 9.25, 9.25.
I wouldn't want every episode of Star Trek to be like this episode, because then it wouldn't be Star Trek. But I appreciate it when the writers take the time to let us get a little bit more emotionally involved in the characters that we're watching and in the relationships they have to each other. Even before we start the story of Carbon Creek, just the idea that T'Pol is willing to sit down with Trip and with Archer and tell them such a personal story from her history, that begins the ball rolling. But I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't want every single episode of Star Trek to be this way, or it'd be Little House on the Prairie, right? But so that's why I'm going to give it a 9.95. It's because it's good for what it is. If I'm in the mood for ice cream, it's a great ice cream episode. But usually when I watch Star Trek, I'm more looking for Lucky Charms. So, but it's good. It's a good ice cream episode when I'm looking for that. And so that's why I give it a 9.95.
Are Lucky Charms supposed to be the more filling and nutritious option?
No, they're crunchy and hard. So they
okay. They're more satisfying.
More.
Okay,
Yeah.
Got it.
That is an
Yeah,
it's like crunchy
8.6
sci-fi
average.
versus soft sci-fi.
Wow. Okay.
I will admit this last shot tends to get me, because it did seem a little convenient that she's telling this story about her great-grandmother, and then, she brought her great-grandmother's purse on Enterprise.
Yeah.
Unless the thing I was wondering, did she buy that when she went to visit?
Oh,
Everything
Like a
was
souvenir
amazing.
shop.
Store.
Souvenir shop.
yeah, it is weird that she leaves it on just kidding. But then no, but is it really? Maybe. Oh, you don't know.
I thought it was part of her meditation satchel. That's what I assumed. Have we never seen this satchel before? I assumed it was how Chakotay has his thing, his little bag of things.
I was just going to bring that up.
Okay.
It's always bothered me that Chakotay's medicine bundle, really, he took the time when he suicided his ship into the Kazon at the beginning of Voyager to I got to beam my medicine bundle off.
He had his priorities straight. When he went to the Badlands, he had that medicine bundle. When the caretaker took him, he had that medicine bundle.
Tuvok's got all sorts of stuff too, and he was he was undercover on the ship that got blown up. So where'd his crap
That's so good. You know, I've never thought about that, but you are absolutely right.
Yeah,
though most of what he has don't seem, as I say, but nothing that you see seems like it's like artifacts. It's nothing that couldn't have been like replicated later. Anyway, so we've come to the end of a season potentially. I don't think we're gonna do a stream next week, but I'm gonna leave that open and we'll talk about it. More than likely, though, you guys won't see us until the 19th of next month when Academy premieres. To whatever that's going to end up make us feel like. Trek first episodes tend to either be amazing or terrible. Let's see what category this falls into. So I would like to thank all of my co-hosts and all of the other co-hosts that aren't here today that we've had this year and over the past 3 years. Here's to 3 more years of buffer time. Till we see you again, live long and